this Monday afternoon. Here's our timeline this afternoon. James Harrison, according to his Instagram post, has announced his retirement. He says, "I'm done." He played 15 years in the NFL. The Broncos are releasing running back C.J. Anderson. This is according to our Adam Schefter amid multiple reports. And at 12:41 here on the East Coast, the Vikings announced a contract extension for linebacker Eric Kendricks. Adam Schefter reporting it's for 5 years, $50 million, and does include a $25 million guaranteed. It may be draft season, but that does not mean teams aren't already looking ahead. 25 teams begin off-season workouts today, some with better conditions than others. And here's what I mean. This is the scene courtesy of the Green Bay Packers. It's the tunnel as you head out to Lambeau Field. And I'm telling you, that was taken today. Spring apparently slow to come there, slow to come here. It just won't happen. I'm telling you, we need some sunshine, but we're glad to have you with us. Wendy Nix, Jeff Darlington, Damian Woody, and Jeff Saturday. The weather, I can tell you, and if you've watched the marathon, you know, not much better in Foxborough. The Patriots, though, one of the 25 teams beginning their off-season workout programs today as well, with a few notable exceptions. Tom Brady not present today. He's been traveling abroad on behalf of a charity he works with and was not expected to be back in time to participate. In previous years, Brady has been a regular participant in the team's offseason program, but he will miss at least the beginning of workouts this time around. And like his quarterback, tight end Rob Gronkowski will not attend the start of New England's offseason program either. He has spent much of the offseason, as you know, considering his football future. According to reports, he has had communication, some of it positive, with the Patriots, according to sources. Not the end of the world, as we remind everybody all the time. These are voluntary workouts, and the word voluntary means come if you'd like to. However, these two players typically a part of the Patriots offseason program, and perhaps of note that this time around they're not. Jeff.
Well, Wendy, I guess we got to try to unpack this thing because this is
we got time. We got nothing but time.
Great, because we need it. This is very interesting, and I can tell you that based on the conversations that I've had, I anticipate that Tom Brady will not be a participant not only today and Tuesday during his trip to Qatar, but when he gets back, the team will have a day off on Wednesday, and then Thursday they'll resume. I don't anticipate Brady being there, nor do I expect him to be at other voluntary workouts in the coming weeks. It is interesting to say the least, the reasons that we can point to right now. First of all, he wants to spend more time with family, something he alluded to in his Tom versus Time documentary when he said, "This offseason will be about my family." It will also be about maintaining his health, something that he wants to do with his body coach, Alex Guerrero, who is restricted access from Gillette Stadium. So he'll be in Boston working out, guys. The interesting thing is that he won't necessarily be in Gillette Stadium.
Damian, you've been in Foxborough. You've obviously played with Tom Brady. You've played for Bill Belichick. And this Alex Guerrero situation, at least if you read the tea leaves, appears to be a line in the sand. I mean, I think we found an Achilles heel here where players want to take care of their bodies, want to work out the way they want to. And now, you know, how big of a rift can this cause?
This thing,
This
thing is, it started off with like a brush fire, but it's like escalated into something much, much bigger. And these stories, it's funny, these stories have been coming out of Foxborough. You've just been hearing a whisper here about, you know, one person. You hear like Danny Amendola talking about reflecting back on his time in New England, you know, Malcolm Butler. Then you got Tom and Rob Gronkowski not, you know, reporting to the offseason program. This is something that hasn't happened, I don't know, ever in New England, where you're hearing all these type of things. Usually New England does a really good job of keeping like these things buttoned up, but to have all these stories coming out in the off season, it's pretty shocking, to be honest.
Yeah, and Jeff, I want to hear your point on this, but I will say this. I think there's the distinction here, or something that stands out to me. This is not entirely atypical for some teams around the league. This is extremely different for a team in New England that has towed the party line almost 100%, Jeff, since Bill Belichick started having success.
No, that's exactly right. And the truth is it all starts with Tom Brady. I mean, when your quarterback is in town and doing his workouts with the team repeatedly, I had a very similar circumstance with Peyton Manning in Indy. He never missed, right? But there's something about that. There's the leading by example that Tom Brady has done for his entire career. And guys in the locker room follow that. Listen, they understand how important it is when the head signal caller is in there and watching him take care of himself and how is he going about his day-to-day business. Well, then all your other leaders follow that same suit, and next thing you know, you have this synergy with guys, everybody's showing up, everybody's bought in. When it starts where it's starting, and if what ends up happening is Tom Brady doesn't come, that does show a crack in the foundation. The Gronkowski situation to me is a little bit different because I really do think he's considering retiring, period, being done with it. So if that's the case, I think you need to take the time away and don't get burnt out. But maybe his is a Guerrero situation as well, because that's kind of been maybe that's who he wants to be with as well. So will Belichick come back, sit down? Because to Woody's point, when Belichick understands this is a major issue for his team, he's going to bring the fold in, and he's going to have the conversation as a team. He's going to sit down. Is he willing to give, basically, and allow these guys to use Guerrero and bring him back into the fold? That's going to be your question, because if that's the divide, you don't want to lose your team or look like you're losing the team in that realm.
No, especially when you're talking about marquee names. And Jeff, I want you to address one thing. Is there a difference between Tom Brady not being present and Rob Gronkowski's absence?
There is and there isn't. There are definite parallels between these two situations that occasionally will intersect, and Guerrero is an example. But I want to be very clear about a few things. First of which, Guerrero isn't the only the only outlier here that is causing this rift, this lack of perceived respect from these players. There are other things in play here that they're going to continue to discuss, not just with Bill Belichick, but with Robert Kraft in ownership. So this does go much deeper than just Bill Belichick. This is something that will continue to unfold throughout the offseason. And, one other point about this, when we talk about respect, how is respect ultimately shown? Is it just in the form of money? Is that what it's going to take for all this to go away
helps.
with Gronkowski?
That helps.
It certainly, it certainly does help. And quite honestly, I can't figure out the tangible aspect of this that will make it all better, other than the one thing that is money, because I don't see Bill Belichick all of a sudden saying, gee, golly gosh, guys, I'm sorry I was a jerk. Let's just all hug this thing out and get back to business.
I mean, think about this. You hear all the talk about the Patriot way, and Jeff alluded to it. You got your number one guy, Tom Brady, not showing up early, possibly not showing up for a lengthy period of time. So if you're another player that's new to the organization and you're looking around, wait a minute, my quarterback's not here, the tight end's not here. What the heck is going on?
By the way, the two most vital pieces on that football team are those two guys. You can carve that however you want. Tom Brady, Gronkowski's not much further behind Tom Brady in importance of what this team needs and what this is looking like. And you're talking about what Cook's gone and different things happening, Amendola gone. But you're hearing the whispers. And here's the thing. The Patriot way is Belichick way. Be real about what that is, correct. Right? So the Patriot way is the way Belichick. To his credit, however you want to put this, Tom Brady's kind of thrown him a curveball a little bit. He has been in line the whole time, and all of a sudden, this thing has come to a division for some reason. If he decides not to do it, that's different from him. It's not like Bill Belichick woke up today and changed. This guy has been the same guy since he's been coaching. Can we all still get along and get this thing moving in the same direction because we all have difference of opinion now?
There's no question about that. It's all okay until it isn't.
Right.
And there's a threshold there. Have we met it? I don't know.
It does not feel okay right now.
It does not
I can tell you that.
Warm and fuzzy.
Okay. We're going to talk much more about this. By the way, happy birthday, Bill Belichick. It is his
his birthday?
Today is his birthday.
Also, happy
66
birthday.
years young.
Also the anniversary of the day they drafted
aren't
Brady.
we a bowl of cherries? Happy birthday. We're going to talk much more about this because I think it's important and it has repercussions around the league. So stick with us. A guy who played last season in New England, linebacker James Harrison, though, he has a birthday coming up, turning 40 on May 4th. He's decided to retire from the NFL. He's done it for 15 seasons. And in an Instagram post on his account that features pictures of his young children, precious by the way, he writes this: I've missed way too much for way too long, and I'm done. Many thanks to my family, coaches, the fans, and everyone who played a role in my football life. Second and final retirement is his hashtag, Harrison Family Values. Blessed and highly favored. Also God's plan. Not many players have produced like James Harrison has after turning 30 years old. Of his 84.5 career sacks, 72 have come since he turned 30. He's one of 7 since sacks became official, with at least 70 sacks after their 30th birthday, sitting among some Hall of Fame company along with Panthers defensive end Julius Peppers. Now, one of James's most memorable plays, and it came on a big stage, Super Bowl 43. Remember this, fellas, just after halftime, before halftime?
Never forget that.
On the 2-yard line, first and goal, Harrison found his way to picking off a pass from Kurt Warner. He gets some assistance, but he takes it all the way back for a 100-yard touchdown. That pick six, the second longest scoring play in Super Bowl history. Jeff Saturday, what will you remember most about James Harrison?
Just a heck of a career, man. I mean, this guy, he was relentless in what he did. He put it in, each and every year. You see all the videos he puts out on Instagram, the way he trains. The guy was just all in on ball and gave it his best and came up the hard way. Undrafted, went through Europe, did all those things. But, good career and I hope he enjoys the retired life with his family, man. That's what he needs to be doing. Good for him.
I have a soft spot for the undrafted players. There's no question about that.
Me too. What do you know about that?
I don't.
You come in, you don't get a lot of fanfare, Jeff Saturday, and you just make yourself into a player and have a tremendous career. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
Yeah,
Sorry, Damien.
James Harrison, by the way, that Super Bowl play will go down in Super Bowl history. I mean, one of the great plays of all time that really spurred that game on. But, man, anytime I was in a locker room with James Harrison, I was always petrified of him. Like, you guys
with
are friendly,
good reason.
Kind of the offensive lineman.
Listen,
that guy used to scare the crap out of me.
He should have pitched that ball in that Super Bowl.
Oh, he should have
pitched that ball.
He got
it
greedy.
turned out good. It could have been real bad.
He got greedy.
He did. It worked out good. Good for him.
Listen, what's the first thing you did? What's the first place you went, first thing you did after you retired? Because you both played a long time.
I was in Hawaii. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. My wife, my family, we were there. We hung out.
Fair enough.
That, enjoyed it.
Damien?
Jamaica.
Okay.
Yes.
I just took a trip, got away.
Yes.
I'm like, I need to get the heck out of here.
He's still getting away.
Yeah,
just living the good life.
You saw that picture of Lambeau Field. We could all get
Sounds
away
nice
right about now. It sounds right. By the way, Harrison logged 80 and a half sacks in 14 seasons with the Steelers, the most by any player in franchise history since that stat became official in 1982, which is saying something in that Steelers organization. Later, is Bill Belichick's Patriot way, or as Jeff just called it, the Belichick way, causing a rift in that organization? We'll talk about the Patriots' future and what it might hold. And we have not forgotten, it is Overreaction Monday. We will talk Cowboys and what Dez Bryant had to say about his former teammates next. Dez Bryant was released on Friday. Bryant's production had slipped. He had not had a 1,000-yard season in the past 3 years. He continues to look for a new team, and in the meantime had this to say about his former team.
The situation was very unfair to me, and I'll put it that way. It was an unfair situation, because if they did want to, get rid of me, they could have told me that. They could have told me that, and I would have respected that, just like I told Jerry in the meeting. I respect his decision.
There's a narrative being floated out there, Des, that some teammates had something to do with this decision. Do you have any evidence to support that at this point?
Well, I'll say this right here. I believe that. Garrett guys, I would say that. I believe that. I truly believe it. I won't put no names out, but they know, and I want them to know. I know. I'll shoot them a text message and let them know. And little do they know is, they can wear that seat all they want to. But in that locker room, they know who they run and they talk to. They know who they communicate with. Everybody know where the real love is at.
Where do you want to go, Des?
Man, I won't say any teams, but being in the division, man, that's a huge possibility. It's a huge possibility. That's something that I want.
Why?
Just because. It's personal. Like I said, it's very personal.
Obviously, it's sad news. That's a brother to me. Put the football stuff behind you. What he meant to me as a person, what he meant to me as a brother. It's tough to see him going, but it shows you, it's a business.
Are you upset at all that you weren't asked about it beforehand or anything, like being the franchise quarterback?
Yeah, I'm in my second year. You know what I mean? So as much as you want to say, yeah, I want to say so or whatever, this and that. You know what I'm saying? Those guys get paid a lot more than me. That's what those guys are there to do, and that's not my decision.
Here's the top of the Cowboys receiving corps after the release of Bryant. Terrence Williams, now the #1 guy, at least as it stands today. He's dealing with a foot injury. Among these four, free agent pickup Allen Hurns is the only one that's ever had a 1,000-yard receiving season. As promised, it is Overreaction Monday, and everything's bigger in Texas, right? I feel like this is perfect for Overreaction Monday. The Cowboys, as you may remember, went 9-7 last season. That's why we chose the number. I'll say this. Cowboys win fewer than 9 games this season. Is that an overreaction?
That's an overreaction. They're going to win more games than 9, and it's because of one person, Ezekiel Elliott. That's the reason why Jerry Jones, it felt like at the end of the season, ultimately gave Jason Garrett a pass on the season. How was he supposed to possibly win without Ezekiel Elliott? Well, now's the chance to prove it. When Elliott's back on the field, I think that certainly he'll have the opportunity to get those wins, and I do think that he ultimately will.
Yeah, preach it. I mean, the reality is this team goes through Ezekiel Elliott and Dak Prescott, for that matter. As you're looking at what this team, I don't think this team is as good without Dez Bryant. I think you look at, you still had close to 70 catches, but they'll find a way to find his production. His number was it was a numbers deal, and they wanted to move on and go in a different direction. But if you're looking at, can they still win 9 or more games? Absolutely, it's an overreact. They will win more than 9 games because of Ezekiel Elliott and what he can do to help that defense. His last 7 games, I think he had 5 of those were over 100 yards, and the other 2 were in the 90s. This guy, they are going to feed him the rock and continue to do it. It makes their entire football team better. They'll be a good football team with Zeke back in the lineup.
Damian, is this an overreaction?
Uh-oh.
I feel the dissenting opinion coming.
I'm going to say it's not an overreaction, and I simply base it off of Dak. I don't know if Dak – I had some reservations about the way Dak played last year. And I understand that Zeke wasn't there for 6 games, but, man, I just felt like he took a step back last year.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe the league is catching up to him. Had a great rookie year, fell back last year. Still has a lot to prove to me.
Well, I think it's sort of the litmus test season, no? Because he came out and lit the league on fire his rookie year. And then you have a sophomore slump where he throws, 4 pick sixes, so that can't happen. So now we have season 3. And you got Ezekiel Elliott back, and you find out who you are. I think you know a lot more by, let's say, December than you do right
I would,
now.
yeah. If you told me, and I will agree with you that from a Dak perspective, I think Dak is exactly what I would expect him to be. When you have Ezekiel Elliott in the game, though, it changes his game completely. Even without the receiver and the compliments you're going to get from him, it changes for him because of what Zeke brings to you and out of the backfield. I mean, all the different things that he can do for you as a football team, he is the different dynamic. That's why I think Dak can carry the weight of the team with him in the backfield. He's not a guy you'd want to carry it without right now.
Well, that's what I just want to clarify. So you're saying without Ezekiel Elliott, Dak Prescott's an entirely different quarter. What
Absolutely.
we did.
You saw it. 100%. Yeah. But listen, that's not a judgment on that. There's a lot of quarterbacks who would sit in that same category. Without Ezekiel Elliott, there's a reason you brought him with that offensive line to be the crux of your offense.
You seem most comfortable, by the way, with Ezekiel Elliott in the game, and with all due respect to Dez Bryant, who I still think has a big career in front of him. I still think he'll be successful. But Dak never seemed comfortable, almost to the point where he felt like it was forcing the ball too often with Dez. If they can go back to 2 years ago when it was Zeke and Dez actually wasn't in the game that much, I feel like Dak will take that step forward, even though.
Yeah. And you're looking for a different dynamic. Listen, Dez needs a guy who's going to put the ball right on him to give him a chance. That's where you think Dak struggled, right? Yeah. Was with the accurate throws, putting the ball pinpoint, can't always be players. You're going to have to drive the ball to him. Both of their games just didn't complement each other well.
This is a two-pronged deal for the Dallas Cowboys offense. One, they don't have guys that separate on the outside.
Yeah, that's a fact.
They need to add more speed to their offense. But two, again, to me, in order for the Cowboys to get 9+ wins, Dak to me needs to take another step. Which we'll see.
Yeah. We'll see. We will. And we'll know, like I said, December, but really by November. It's interesting, though, all of this sort of underscores the Saquon Barkley argument to me. Not for the Cowboys, but for a team out there when you talk about Ezekiel Elliott being a game changer in his impact. And it's draft season, so I can say that. We're going to talk about that, actually, coming up. But we're also going to talk about this. The Giants are hosting 2 quarterback prospects today, one tomorrow. But is their mind already blocked in Dallas, which means it is a busy time of year for Todd McShay, who's with us now. And Todd, the safe assumption, I think, is that Cleveland will take a quarterback at number 1. So let's jump ahead and talk about the Giants at number 2. What are your expectations?
Well, the more I look at it, the more you kind of research the history of Dave Gettleman, the general manager, and the more I talk to people in the league, I don't know definitively what they're going to do, but I do have a strong opinion they're going to wind up staying at number 2. I think it's going to take an absolute monster deal from a team like Buffalo to try to move up to that number 2 spot. And at the end of the day, I think Gettleman, who does not have a history of trading first or really second-round picks, I think just one traded second-round pick in his entire tenure, the 5 years where he was making draft picks in Carolina. So if he stays there, I just get the hunch it's going to be Saquon Barkley, the running back from Penn State, when it's all said and done. I think Bradley Chubb, North Carolina State defensive end, very much in play. I think that it probably comes down to those 2 players at that position. I think Chubb would be a great addition in that division, adding pass rushers. But Saquon Barkley is the player in this year's draft. On the field, what he can do, pass protection, catching the football out of the backfield. Pair him up with Eli, with the weapons they have at receiver, and now with Ingram at tight end. All of a sudden, and Nate Solder, too, added in the left tackle position. This goes from an offense that really battled a year ago to an offense that has a lot of weapons and can probably protect a lot better than they could a year ago. So at the end of the day, I believe Barkley is the most likely to be the number 2 pick.
Todd, thank you. I know you'll be back with us in just a minute. Plenty to get to as we move toward the draft. We continue right now, though, with Overreaction Monday. And since we're talking about Saquon Barkley and the Giants, I'll say this. The Giants passing on Barkley is a huge mistake. I think we should say would be a huge mistake, since we're assuming they will with this. Would that be a mistake, Jeff? Overreaction?
Yeah, I think that's an overreaction. I think, listen, he is going to be a fantastic football player. There's a lot of different ways they can go. You heard Todd just mention Chubb could be in the mix. Quarterback could be in the mix if they have the guy they think is going to be Eli's, backup for a year or two. There are a lot of different. When you're at 2, and listen, we talked about Ezekiel at last segment and about what he can do and what he brings. The difference of when you brought Zeke to Dallas and bringing Barkley to the Giants is the impact of the offensive line. The Cowboys' offensive line was ready to insert. They had 1,000-yard rushers no matter what. So it didn't matter who was going to be in there. They're still going to have an effective run game. I'm not sure the Giants are there. So if Barkley is your guy, is he going to be an advantage? Absolutely. Todd's points are great. He's coming out of the backfield. He's excellent in pass protection, all of those things. I'm not sure if he brings the same impact to your team as Ezekiel did to the Cowboys, just because of where the Cowboys were as a football team. So I think it would be an overreaction to say it's an awful mistake if they do. They got to find the best player for their fit and then move from there.
Yeah, I think it's an overreaction as well. Listen, and this is no knock on Saquon Barkley.
No.
I think he's a lights-out prospect, the best prospect in this draft. But if you're the New York Giants, I think you also got to look what's going on in my division. I mean, you got some really good quarterbacks in that division, and the best way to handle that is you got to get guys that get after the quarterback in that division. And there's a lot of running backs in this draft as well, some really good running backs. So if you're the Giants, I think you got to lean towards defense, get rushes. That's really been the Giants' success in the past.
Absolutely.
It's getting after the opposing quarterback. That's been their recipe for success.
You know, it's funny, though. Every time I watch highlights from Saquon Barkley, I start to think, man, it would be a huge mistake to pass on that guy. But I am going to say overreaction from the standpoint of what you guys are pointing out, but also when we do talk about the quarterbacks in this draft, I feel like the draft process suddenly is causing so much over-evaluation to the point where we're questioning all of them. And if we talk about just a few months ago, we're talking about there's 4 franchise quarterbacks in this draft. And even if Eli Manning is your quarterback for the next 2 or 3 seasons, even if that is the case, and you pass on one of these franchise quarterbacks, that could also be considered a mistake. So, like you guys said, Saquon Barkley, definitely a talent. If they take him there, so be it. But I think the fact that they are evaluating these quarterbacks, including Sam Darnold and Josh Allen, I think it's a pretty smart move by the Giants.
Well, we've said this before. They can't all play forever. Not even Tom Brady, not even Eli Manning. At some point, you have to plan. The Denver Broncos are releasing running back C.J. Anderson. This according to our Adam Schefter. He is entering his 6th season in the league, having spent his entire career with the Broncos and coincidentally produced his first 1,000-yard rushing season in 2017. So, listen, we're not done with Saquon Barkley. I'll ask you this. Could he can enter the Denver conversation. That's assuming, though, I think, that Denver trades up. Because he likely won't be there when the Broncos pick.
I don't anticipate the Denver Broncos trading out of that 5th spot. I feel like they're comfortable that they're going to land a really good player because of the quarterbacks that are likely to go off the board, that Saquon Barkley is likely to go off the board. I don't see them reaching for Barkley. If he were to fall to them for some crazy reason, which doesn't seem likely since the Browns also hold that 4th round pick, or 4th overall pick, maybe. But, man, John Elway and Baker Mayfield, that's the one I got my eyes on.
Oh, really?
I got my eyes
you
on
got
that
your
prize.
eyes on that prize, do you?
Just throwing that out there.
Yeah, you think about with the Broncos, this has not been their MO anyway, to go, even in this offense, Elway ran, the offense he ran, there are a ton of backs. And Damian said it earlier about this is a deep draft class. I think last week we talked about Chris Mortensen said he's talked to a ton of general managers, and they have all said this running back class is deeper than last year. And you got the rookie of the year, you got the leading run, you got all that with Hunt, Kamara, all in the third. There's a lot of guys around, so I think if he falls, but I wouldn't trade out of the spot to go get a running back.
And what are the odds he falls to 5? They can't be high with Cleveland at 1 and 4.
Too good.
That just seems too good to be true. But I guess stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I mean, with the system that they run like a West Coast system with the Denver Broncos. You don't usually take running backs that high.
No, exactly.
For the Denver Broncos, what's the one thing that we've heard from them for the longest? Offensive line.
You got it.
Offensive line.
Here we go.
Not
one, but two.
I'm not saying, but I'm saying.
Are you saying Nelson goes
I'm not saying.
Just drop the I'm not saying.
I'm just saying.
I'm just saying.
Hey, it'd make Elway look like a genius.
Like a genius.
Like a genius, John.
How about this for genius? In the common draft era, Denver has never drafted a quarterback with the top 5 pick. On the subject of trading up, our Bills reporter Mike Rodak has tweeted this. Bills general manager Brandon Beane said today, I know everybody assumes we're trading up. Even if I wanted to trade up, I know the guy and what it takes. It takes a partner to be able to move up. That is true. Bill Belichick's Patriot Way has delivered 5 Lombardi trophies to New England, but is it getting old? Is it starting to cause issues? We'll dive into the Patriot Way next in the Red Zone.
Until the confetti fell on top of you, then it's like, this
Was
is what
it worth it?
To win a championship, absolutely. But the process it's a grind. And as you get older, there's just some things that you just don't want to go through anymore. I think most players go through that. We're seeing kind of chips at that with, whether it's Tom not going to the offseason program, Rob, you're hearing Danny Amendola. They're just basically pulling the curtain and giving you a peek of what it's really like, in the Patriots organization.
You know what, though, Damian? It's one thing, in my opinion, to play in that grind, in that dark tunnel, and get that confetti to rain down on you. It's another to do it as an underpaid player at your position, where you could covet all sorts of money on free agency, whether you're Danny Amendola, Rob Gronkowski, Tom Brady, Nate Solder. All these guys are starting to say, wait a second, this is great. I love getting the championships. But to get grinded down all year long and take below market price, that's something that eats away at these guys even more than anything else.
Let me tell you, I spent 5 years in New England, won two championships. And I remember having a conversation where Coach Belichick and Scott Pioli, who was the general manager at the time, said, you know what, we're going to let you test the free agent market. I knew at that very moment I was never coming back, because I knew that the Patriots weren't the type of organization that was going to pay like top dollar.
That's right.
And for me, it was a decision of, you know what? I need to do what's best for my family financially, even after the game. And I think a lot of guys look at that same thing as well. It's like, how can you keep putting yourself through this grind and you feel like you're not being compensated what you think you're worth?
And I think that's the beauty of the system and the way that Belichick has set it up, is you have so many really good veteran players who are willing to come play for a below market deal because they've already made the money. So they'll come back to win the championship.
But who are they playing with?
But the balance of the young players who are being developed and growing through the system, you're never going to be. But this is the reality of all good, especially teams that are setting dynasties like the Patriots, is if you want to be the highest paid, very often you're going to go to a very bad football team because they have the money to do it. If you want to stay successful and you want to lock in, you're never going to be. It's where do you find the balance of making enough to keep you happy and still winning and being able to play under a guy like Bill Belichick? Listen, it's worked for a long time. we're just starting after 16, 18, whatever the year, however many years he's been here, we're starting to see the small cracks in it. And I'm telling you, if the season started tomorrow, I still wouldn't bet against them.
No way.
Them fellas are going to go play ball during the season. Yeah. But we're seeing some issues now. But this thing has lasted a long time, and I'm not sure that we're seeing the end. I think with a little bit of massage and negotiation behind closed doors, this would all go away. It's just a matter of who is willing to do that.
But we're also talking about Tom Brady. And a lot of these guys, and I don't want to speak for you because I don't know what your situation in that regard was, go to play with Tom Brady. We can talk about Bill Belichick all we want, but Tom Brady, I mean, I know everybody falls on one side or the other, and I think you see where I'm leaning toward. But Tom Brady helped get those championships too. Well, and if he's the one who eventually stands up and say, you know what, I'm sick of being the underpaid guy. I'm sick of dealing with all this.
But you know what? Let me tell you, another thing that helps the whole culture is when the quarterback is not commanding, say, like the top dollar.
That's right.
Right.
That's other players on the roster's like, well, if he's not, then how can you?
Right.
Is it time to evolve? If you were looking at this, we're all at this point outside observers. Is it time for somebody to evolve?
It's time for them to sit down and figure out what they want. But we're talking about a lot of people who really love football and ultimately are really good together. And whether or not they can come together and get into a room and figure this out and find out what the end game is ultimately going to dictate whether the Patriots have continued success.
I'm not ready to put this thing at DEFCON 1. Okay,
I don't think we're there either.
It's hot, man. It's hot.
But Wendy, you know how it is. Like it seems like people, any type of little crack, and it seems like a lot of people try to pounce on it.
Everybody crushed Seth Wickersham when he wrote his story, and all of a sudden we're still talking about it with quantified reasoning. So I'm just saying, there's something here, guys.
No doubt there's something there. I'm just telling you. People like to be successful. All of these men are better with each other than they are separate. So they better all know. Check the ego at the door, man. Kraft better get them in order because they're all much better. They all split apart. None of them will be nearly as good as they are together.
And I think they've done that, which is why they've had this incredible success for this long. And if they can find a way to check that and continue to do it quickly, because we got to go. But how long does Belichick coach? He's 66 years old. Clearly can still do it. He shows no sign of slowing down. 10 more years? If he'd like to.
Long as he wants.
Yeah.
Tell you that right now. Long as he wants.
I don't know what else he'd do. I think he likes it. I think he likes it.
Tom Brady can quarterback too, because
500
yards in the Super Bowl.
Less than 10, I think.
Part of me feels like he wants to get past the Brady era, trying to.
Yes.
But I said this morning.
Yes.
I completely agree.
Yeah.
If I had to bet on it, that'd be my guess. Shaquem Griffin's story, one of the.
Did not.
He turned down so many from UF, FSU, Miami. He turned down so many teams. It was unbelievable.
It was about sticking with my brother, and the bond and the love I have for him was way bigger than some scholarship.
Well, the next 4 years, we'll be taking our time to UCF, ready to be a Knight.
The first school to offer both brothers a scholarship was the University of Central Florida. Shaquille quickly moved up the depth chart there.
Shaquille Griffin makes an incredible play.
Shaquem didn't, struggling in his first several seasons.
I had to sit for a while, watch my brother play. I was always happy for him, but I always felt like it was so much more for me to do. I think that was a time where I didn't know where I was going to be playing ever again.
What doubt did you have?
Doubt? I don't remember having doubt. Just being scared of stopping. Just needed somebody to give me a chance to show them that I can.
That chance came in 2016 when Scott Frost took over as head coach.
Hit right away by Shaquem Griffin.
It was obvious right away how good an athlete he was. It was easy after the first couple practices to look past how many hands he had, and we knew we had to find a place for him on the field.
It's not a gas in, baby! Let's go!
Gave me a fair shot to start. I ain't looked back ever since.
That season, Shaquem shined.
And the interception by who else? Shaquem Griffin.
11th in the nation in sacks.
Backside pressure. Down he goes, Shaquem Griffin.
And named Conference Defensive Player of the Year.
Griffin again. Shaquem Griffin knocked it out.
In 2017, with Shaquille now in the NFL playing for the Seahawks, Shaquem led UCF to an undefeated season while landing on NFL draft boards.
Griffin, who I think is the most inspirational story in all of college football.
But despite his play, in late January, he still had not received an invite to the Combine.
He should be evaluated as if he had two hands. To evaluate him like he has one hand is an injustice, because one hand hasn't precluded him from doing anything his entire life.
And then came January 30th.
What's good, buddy?
What's up, buddy?
Hey, when you want me to call the Combine?
If you got it in, you should got an email. Did you check your email?
No, I ain't checked that yet.
We'll check, and then if you don't have an email, then we'll call. Regardless of what happens, you're going to have an opportunity to be seen.
We're going to find out. Is this it right here?
Official invite.
Let's go.
Congratulations.
Let's go. Thank you.
Well deserved. Well deserved.
Oh, man, you did get it, huh? Let's get it. Yeah. Let's go. It's over now. Hey, y'all, man, they invited the right one now. It's over.
Time to work now, baby.
It's over.
5 weeks later, Shaquem was in Indianapolis.
What's going on? Stretch.
To show all who were timing, watching,
Good. Back it up.
judging, just what he could do.
The 2013 NFL Draft, the first round anyway. You can see 1 through 10. Eric Fisher, Luke Joeckel going 1 and 2 back to back. But today we're starting a series we're going to do all week as we make our way to this year's NFL Draft, just 10 days away, a week from Thursday night, called Second Chance Selections, okay? It's a redo, a mulligan. You get a mulligan on the first tee? You get a mulligan on the first tee.
You get the
Yes, yes. Absolutely. Well, consider us on the first tee, okay? Because we're going to look back at 2013. Jeff Saturday here is going to tell us what he would do differently now that we have a bit more information, if you will. So take it away.
2013 draft is pretty much called a train wreck, in case we want to.
Or dumpster fire, because Damon's
there you
here.
go.
There
See
you go.
what I did there?
So I'm going to start right here. I'm not going to get outside of the position for the first one because you know I like offensive linemen, but I'm going to replace one with the other. I'm going to go Lane Johnson. Let me just read you why he would be number one. They're 17-4 over the last 2 seasons with Johnson in the lineup. 3-8 without him. They average 20 points a game without him, 28 with him, 5 yards a play with him, 4.8 without. Obviously, this guy is a major contributor to this team and would have helped the Kansas City Chiefs. Fisher has been good, okay. Johnson would have been an upgrade, in my opinion.
Good to okay.
Good to okay.
All right, so
2.
I noticed he stayed with the offensive line.
2. We're going Le'Veon Bell. Now, listen.
Okay, I mean, listen, this can't argue this.
This is unbelievable, right? He's the best player in the draft. Could be number one. I just wanted to keep an offensive lineman there, but 129 yards from scrimmage in his career, the best in history. The history of our game with at least 50 games, this cat's played.
The Chiefs had Jamal Charles, to be fair. In your little offensive tackle experiment there. All right, where are you going at 3?
All right, at 3, we're gonna go to the defensive side of the ball. We're going to go with my man Ziggy. Going to get a little action right here, right? Listen, the Dolphins need all the help they can get anywhere they can get, but you want to get pressure. They went Deion Jordan, I think, 3 at their last spot. Here, they're going to get a better rusher. If you look at his numbers, he had 12 sacks last season in playing only 47% of the defensive snaps. He's had double-digit sacks in all but the 15 year. This guy can flat out play. He would have been a strong suit at number 3.
He's been franchised in the offseason. Number 4.
All right, number 4.
This was before they were Super Bowl champs.
Let's go number 4.
You know?
How about my man Xavier Rhodes locking down on the edges in the Eagles? Now, listen, we know what he does in Minnesota and how they built that defense around and how good and effective that defense is. This guy wants to challenge the number 1 receiver. So if I'm picking back in 2013 and you're the Eagles, I would have went Xavier Rhodes here from Florida State.
Now, number 5 in the aforementioned train wreck.
Number
as you
5.
called it.
Let's get here.
We're cleaning it up, Damien.
We are.
We're trying to
making
get
it better.
There it is.
There,
Again.
Yep, there. Oh, my Clemson Tiger.
Now you gotta love DeAndre Hopkins and what but he played behind 100 quarterbacks. Most have been very, very poor, and he still's made all these plays. The guy flat out takes care of business each and every Sunday. Ton of respect for what he's done in Houston. Can you imagine him with Calvin Johnson and Stafford? How about that? Had that happened in that time? Johnson may still be playing.
Calvin might stick around. That's right.
All right, here we go. Is this how this
We
looks?
gotta like it. Now we're going to Cleveland.
Okay. Oh, uh-oh.
Let's go back here. What'd you do? Oh my
I don't
word.
know.
She's wrecked the board.
Can you
she has wrecked the board. We're going true fun here. Listen, combined 59 sacks, interceptions, and pass breakups since 2013. That's the 4th amongst DBs. You look at what he's done for the Falcons. This guy has flat out played great football. The Browns needed every player they could possibly get.
Hit that arrow. That's
This
it.
arrow
yeah,
here?
The magic's
All right,
going to happen.
let's
There
go.
we go.
Now,
Good troubleshooting.
Yeah, see what I did?
look right here. A thing of beauty, got that center at number 7. You gotta love that, my man Frederick. This really, he should have been number 1. If we're just gonna be honest, if we're gonna be honest,
Number 1 overall pick.
should have been.
Yeah,
If you look
okay.
right there,
Ahead
I'm
of
going
Le'Veon.
all the way to the top.
And DeAndre
The
Hopkins.
smartest,
Okay.
the most dominant, you name it, from centers. This guy has flat out played. I would have loved to have him there, but obviously no one wants to get centers way up there. So we got to go down. Can't do that. Got to be real on this show.
Who needs what above?
Now I'm going to
Yeah,
go.
all right.
The punter next?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
here we go, right here.
Yeah, oh.
We're going to put Keenan Allen in there for the Rams. I know, look, he got set back with the ACL, but if you're looking at this guy, finished 2017 third in the NFL in receiving, had the most catches and receiving yards on his 3rd year last year. This guy has
Well,
played.
time machine, right? You don't know if he'd been injured.
Absolutely.
So,
You
because
have-
he's at a different team.
You have no idea.
We don't know.
All right.
I didn't have anything to do
All
with
right,
that one.
what can we do here?
I don't-
Broken
I
board.
know.
All right, at 9, I'd like to go tight end with Travis Kelce and what he's done, but can you imagine him with the Jets? They had 0 tight end or abilities
anything
there.
happen if I do
So
that?
you go Travis Kelce.
No.
We got a frozen board here
Okay.
somehow. There we go. We can get Kelce up in the action right there. Listen, two seasons with 1,000+ yards. This guy plays. You see how versatile he is in Kansas City's offense. This guy has been lights out. Yeah, I love the attitude he plays with. Sometimes he takes it a little too much, but he flat out gets after it. I would have liked to seen him with the Jets. He may have kept. Was Rex still there? Yeah, he would have had Rex
13,
in action.
Well, that would have been a
Oh,
pairing.
my word. Yeah,
I'd
that
like
may have
to
been-
see
that may
that.
have been trouble.
That was a lot.
And my 10th and final, you know,
Tyrann Mathieu.
Yeah, he dropped down. But think about him now in the slot. I think he's had 10 interceptions from the slot position. He can play all over the defensive backfield. But if you look at him and what he would have done in Tennessee back in the day, this guy was a flat-out athlete, can make things happen. He dropped because I'm off the field. I think getting kicked out of LSU or off the team maybe at some point. But if you look at what he's done, how he's kind of held his career together in the NFL, the guy's taking care of business in Arizona and now in Houston.
Listen, this is Jeff Saturday's first draft as a GM, and he went retrospective.
And I'm
he
gonna
wants
go- I'm
to
still
draft
telling you, I
after he
still
knows.
think I'm a little light
Listen,
on Fred.
where's Todd McShay? Is he here? Because Todd, do you agree that it should be Travis Frederick, the first overall pick in the 2013 NFL draft? Yes?
Well, Wendy, I got this list earlier today from our producers, what the top 10 was going to be, and the first thing I did was write down, where's Lane Johnson? And now all of a sudden, you look at this situation and you got him at number 1. So, you throw this whole thing out the door.
Things change.
By the way, keep those offensive linemen away from my touchscreen in that board. See what's happened already.
Listen, I already told him he won't let me touch it. I'm not getting involved with that. But all right, thank you, Todd. What do you think? It's a lot easier when you've seen him play a few years.
I like. We got some offensive linemen sprinkled in this top 10.
Yes.
So I'm always advocating.
All right, you know what, Jeff?
For offensive
Forget
line.
you two. Can I please have
The Jaguars with
unbiased
Le'Veon Bell would be very intriguing to me,
Yeah.
especially right now. But DeAndre Hopkins is such a stud. I feel like he should be up a little bit higher. But I don't know. What do I know? The Dolphins could have used DeAndre Hopkins
Listen,
as well.
I try to at least keep it fairly honest.
Better
like I took Ziggy there because they had Jordan there. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I tried to at least try to. I tried to lock it in there. You know, but obviously you look at what Hopkins has done.
Hey,
in his
there looks
career.
a lot better than it did in 2013. I can tell you.
There's
that.
no doubt.
Is it?
I would
Funny
keep my
how that
job
works
as a
out.
GM.
Yeah, you get.
You know what I mean?
You get to play again tomorrow. You know why? Because we're going to do it again. The 2014 draft. I think we're going to do the same thing. You know, I'm telling you, once you have a little more information,
it helps.
You know,
makes it pretty easy.
Like the second chance at the 2014 NFL draft, the first round, and this one was not a train wreck, really.
No, this was much
This was
better.
a different situation,
Yep.
if you will. Up next, some experts say Baker Mayfield is too short to play quarterback in the NFL. Our thoughts coming up in his grade A mock draft, but his height continues to be a talking point. Only 3 quarterbacks 6'1" or shorter in the common draft era have been taken in the first 10 picks. Michael Vick, Jim McMahon, and Hall of Famer Bob Greasy. Russell Wilson, another one who faced height questions, goes quarterback to quarterback with the Oklahoma prospect. But we say hello from the Verizon film room. And, you know, I feel like since the draft discussions began, we've talked about Baker Mayfield, and his height has been first and foremost in those discussions. So Overreaction Monday continues. I'll say this. To the teams who are in the draft, those teams making the decisions, height doesn't matter. Is that an overreaction?
No, that's not an overreaction. There's a reason why there's only been a few quarterbacks like that's under 6'1" that's been drafted in the National Football League, because teams put a premium on a certain kind of height, weight, speed with certain positions. And at the quarterback position, there's a prototype that a lot of these teams are looking for. So a Baker Mayfield, he's been spectacular in college, been one of the best college quarterbacks that we've seen in recent memory. But there's a reason why a Josh Allen and some of these other quarterbacks, people kind of talk those guys up more because they fit kind of the prototype that a lot of these teams are looking for in a quarterback.
What about the argument that they're out there, the Drew Breeses of the world, the Russell Wilson?
The ones you named on the list are all excellent quarterbacks, right? They've all played lights out.
I didn't make it up.
You know, you sit around and you talk about this conversation of height, and I look at Russell Wilson, I look at Drew Brees, and you think about a short guy. Part of the issue is they're going to have a lot of batted balls. You hadn't seen that out of Baker Mayfield, right? Does he take a bunch of sacks? No. Neither does Brees. Neither does Russell Wilson. He's a lot like Russell Wilson. He wants to keep his eyes down the field and extend plays with his leg. My biggest issue with this is there have been a lot of guys 6'3" and above that have been drafted high as quarterbacks that are garbage. Absolute garbage. I mean, they can't play. It is terrible. And so, because you want to take a guy all the way out because he's under this threshold that you think a QB has to be, the guy will find the window. If you think he can play, go give him a shot to play. Stop worrying about what his height is.
I agree. I mean, he's not selling jeans. He's there to play football, and he's produced.
It's unreal to think that even in this day and age that a lot of these decision makers still have, well, we need our guy to fit this mold.
That's
Just like this guy's been. They always talk about the tape.
Yes.
Go. What does the tape say? Well, tell me what the tape says on this guy.
That's
this
right.
guy's been a winner. So we need to kind of think outside of the box here a little bit.
Well, Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern, 7 to 9, right here on ESPN. We'll debut our SportsCenter special, Quarterback to Quarterback, with Russell Wilson. He'll be mentoring Baker Mayfield, JT Barrett, Mason Rudolph, and in a special quarterback to running back edition, Saquon Barkley. Welcome back to NFL Live, and we will end this show with some very good news. That's at the Ohio State spring game, and if you're wondering, it's Ryan Shazier. Of course, suffered a serious spinal injury on December 4th, but he is standing up, he is moving around and improving every day, and I don't think there could be much better news. Mike DiRocco saying this from Paul Posluszny's retirement news conference. Linebacker Telvin Smith, an emotional wreck as he talks about how much retiring Paul Posluszny means to him. Posluszny in tears as well in the front row. Such an emotional day at Everbank Field.
I wish I could see that.
Yeah.
Like, I really like those moments.
Did you get emotional?
We need Tom Rinaldi to know.
Did I get emotional at my retirement?
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. I mean, it's what you've done your entire life. I wouldn't. Paul Leslie did it very well.
When you see your boys like that,
yeah.
Good for him, man.
Yeah.
One of the
That
best.
makes sense. All right, that's how I get when I see you guys.
Oh.
You know, I tear up.
Oh, gosh.
The jump is next. We'll see you tomorrow.
We made today's opening tip, and so did you. Lance Stevenson driving, dunking, and then, oh yeah, born ready, baby. You know it. Scotty, should Lance celebrate more carefully?
Yes.